Hey guys, Mark Holthe here, jumping in for another live Q&A on Canadian immigration. Thanks for tuning in. This time I was pushed right up until 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time with an important call that I had with one of my corporate clients. And we are dealing with some super uncertainty in immigration, including these travel restrictions, the impact it's having on people like you who may have your confirmations of permanent residence and are now in a situation where you can't travel and they're expiring, or people that are trying to get those draws, trying to get drawn. Like I'll just post here, like the comment here from Callum. The question I asked is, will Canadian immigration ever get back to normal? And I know for many of us, it seems like it's never going to come, or at least it won't come soon enough. And so, I feel for you, Callum, here. He says, I missed out on the last general draw by 3 days because his ECA didn't come back. And that is so common. I've got a lot of people. Now, I'll tell you, there's a lot of clients that I actually have in Canada who are super happy right now because the Canadian experience class draws have started to drop down. So there's a good and bad that's happening right now. I've got a number of clients outside of Canada, obviously, like many of you, who have your applications in the pool and you're just waiting to be drawn, like Callum. So the question, which I'll answer in just a few minutes as everybody connects and tunes in here, I will address that question. Will it ever get back to normal, or when will it get back to normal? So post in the comments where you're tuning in from. Let's see where everybody is connecting from. I've got a lot of bright light here. Give me a second here. There we go. I guess it is still pretty bright. I'm trying to maneuver my my camera here, and the lighting is always a little bit of an entertaining experience. But this is good. This is good enough. Where am I broadcasting from? This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, and I'm broadcasting from my home office. Which, unlike many people who are working from their home office, this is my home office. So in December, like I've indicated, I opened up my new firm and I chose to do it virtually. And so it was awesome to have all of this in place when craziness hit, right? When the COVID-19 and the travel restrictions and everything. So we're here. I'm broadcasting from Lethbridge, Alberta, which is where I live with my family in our family home here. It's interesting. I probably, there's not much difference between my family seeing me here when I'm in my office, in my home office, compared to when I was in the office, downtown Lethbridge. Once I'm in this office, the door gets closed. There is back to back things going on. And even though I'm here, I'm pretty much stuck here the whole day without hardly any breaks. So the reason we had that little bit of a delay joining today was because I needed to get a drink. I needed to get an apple to eat, which I never quite finished, but I had to get a little bit of food in me to make it through this. So thank you for everybody for tuning in. Let's see where people are listening in from. As always, we're broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So let's see where we've got. We have Mahesh is tuning in from India. Welcome, Mahesh. We've got Jesse down in Florida. And of course, we said a big shout out to Callum in Scotland. So hello, Callum. Of course, we've got Ralph, who's up in Edmonton, one of my favorite followers. Let's see here. Here, Sesh says, but Canadian immigration is still on, isn't it? Yes, it is. It is. Unlike many countries that are shutting the doors down, Canada is still going. Now, hold off on your questions here. Okay, we've got Mark who's tuning in from the Netherlands. Very cool, Mark. I should invite my son over to practice a little Portuguese here for you. Dutch. I keep thinking myself, I speak Portuguese, but my son just returned back from Suriname. Of course, his Dutch is going to be a little bit different than yours in the Netherlands. But yeah, he learned some Dutch. Of course, we've got good old Diamond who's tuning in from Toronto. Welcome. And big shout out to Muhammad who's tuning in on Periscope. So that is fantastic. From Sri Lanka. Welcome. I'm happy that you're able to connect via Periscope. Very cool. And of course, Ralph's Edmonton. And let's see who else we have. Shuvro is Bangladesh. Sumit is Delhi. We've got someone from Nigeria here. And then our Canadian complement, Abhishek, is in Ontario. And South America representation here. We've got Caro in Argentina. Welcome, Caro. Let's see here. I got to post this one. Thanks for your positivity. Best wishes for family. Keep smiling. Ever tried the Bond movies? Well, I think maybe I watched the Bond movies, but I haven't thought about actually creating a Bond movie. Let's see. Trinidad. So we got Shandy from Trinidad. Vicky says, I love Lethbridge. I love Lethbridge too. Anne has got a nice little Latvian flag there. So tuning in from Latvia. And the question is, where to next? I love that. Listening from India, New Delhi. Awesome. We got great representation. We've got Bangladesh here. We have Qatar. We have Mumbai. We've got Bahamas. We've got Bhutan, Dubai. We've got Ishan down in Texas. We've got Rodrigue in the Congo. Nathan is also in Dubai. And more Canadian representation from Welwyn in Toronto. Naveen in Pakistan. Adam in Uzbekistan. Another Canadian contingent out on the West Coast where the weather is a lot nicer. Although it is warming up here now in Canada. So welcome, Royal Ferrari. That's awesome. And let's see. We've got Vicky's down in Mexico City. Welcome, Vicky. We've got someone from Bangalore in India. And I'm just skimming through here, trying to find some new places. Karthik's in Chennai. Ifeanyi is in Nigeria. We got someone else from Dubai, someone else from India. And then let's see what else we have here. Mohammed's in Qatar. Wow, we got tons. Oh, we got some Ethiopia. We got Oklahoma. Everywhere. This is great. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, and thanks for sharing where you're tuning in from. The rest of you who are watching on the Facebook page or the YouTube will be able to see the comments that you're posting. And so I like this because I can show the people that are watching on YouTube who's actually watching from Facebook and vice versa. We've got Mohammed here, Toronto, but technically Lebanon, he says. Excellent. We've got Cameroon. Don't have many people from Cameroon, so that's great that you're connecting. And yeah, it's great. And then we also have Amin Fasla, who says he's a lawyer. Cool. We got lots of awesome comments here. Thanks everybody for just chiming in. This is so much fun. We got another one from Trinidad. Very good. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we'll stop at that level. But huge shout out. It's so cool to be able to do this on multiple platforms. Now, the question, right? The question that really many people are asking, will immigration ever go back to normal? And obviously, I think the answer to that question is yes, we will, it will go back. But what is normal? And it's interesting, immigration are learning a lot of things right now because they're being forced to process applications in new ways. They're being forced to have officers work out of their homes. They're being forced to use top technology and leverage technology in order to keep the immigration programs continuing forward. And so, without a doubt, things will go back technically to a normal. In other words, a normal where people can travel, where the travel restrictions are being lifted. We don't know what the future is going to look like, but right now in Canada, for many places, the isolation, no larger groups over 15, the ending of large gatherings, whether it's entertainment or sports, which, I'm so disappointed that I'm gonna, miss out on my Calgary Flames hockey, my hockey games. I was hoping they were gonna make a good run this year, but all of that has kind of been set aside, and we're all trying to be responsible social citizens. We're trying to do what we can to flatten the curve, and the curve in many places is being flattened. But as this is evolving, many businesses, many organizations are having to adapt and do things that they maybe never would have done before. I tended to be a little bit earlier opening my own immigration law firm and having everyone work out of their homes virtually in December. I was a little bit ahead of the game with that, but I think we're going to see a lot of changes with immigration. I think we're going to see a lot of the things that they've learned and used to process applications. They're going to use that to help with increased efficiencies and to distribute, especially the workload all over, which in my mind, there are still a few applications that are being submitted via paper. And I'll bet you any money, things like spousal sponsorships, the inside provincial nominee program applications that are not through express entry. Those are still paper. Humanitarian and compassion applications. So those things we're now seeing, that they still are paper-based, but I would not be surprised if things are going to shift to really an electronic filing across the board. And then we're seeing in our court systems, federal court, different, the Immigration Appeal Division and things like that, where they're now being very creative in how they are running hearings virtually. So I think, there will be some changes, but it will go back to normal. And the key here is that some people are going to really, really struggle. And obviously in Canada, if we are experiencing up to 25% unemployment, and I don't know if that's the actual figure, things will rebound. And it may take a little bit longer, but I honestly believe that that's the case. And those of you who are outside of Canada, I think our most recent orders in council, I think are extended to about June 30th. Or right around May 21st, I think, is when the most recent order in council is going to come to an end. And so we're gonna have to just see how things play out. Okay, we're just gonna have to monitor and cross our fingers that that people that are outside of Canada with confirmations of permanent residence expiring, that they will be able to travel. It's interesting. Some of you may already be receiving, if you're in Canada, you may already be receiving emails confirming that you are landed with specific instructions that basically replace the need for you to actually appear in person. Now, you still are going to need to get your PR cards sent to you. You're still going to need to sign those confirmations of permanent residence and have them signed by immigration. And there's going to be, there is going to be confirmations going forward from the government relaying to all of the other government departments that these individuals are permanent residents, even though they haven't formally completed and had their confirmations of permanent residence signed. So those emails are going to actually replace or at least provide a confirmation that people are now landed, even though they didn't have to go through the formal landing process. And so that's kind of what I wanted to just touch on a little bit today, was just some of the realities of immigration. But if you look at us globally, compared to the global market with everybody all around, you will see that that Canada is still being very, very proactive. Even though the rounds of invitations are not being extended yet to the federal skilled workers, Canada is taking care of the people that are here in Canada right now and continuing to issue rounds of invitations. And we'll see what happens tomorrow, right? Maybe there will be another round. But at this stage, it's a kind of a wait and see. All right. So there you have it. The prognosis from Canadian immigration lawyer Mark Holthe here. I want to extend just a few little housekeeping matters to everybody. Remember, if you have a question and you're watching this as a recording, either on YouTube or Facebook, remember, all you have to do is send an email to info@holthelaw.com and put live Q&A in the subject line. And then your question may be considered for this actual live Q&A session. So keep that in mind. Those of you who are live, who are posting questions, hang tight. We're going to get to those in just a little bit. And then I'll let you know, and then you can start posting. Okay. We're going to answer just a few questions that were sent in by listeners first, and then we'll transition to your questions. All right. Okay. So let's take a look, and I found that it's a lot easier to actually share my screen with you guys. And then you're in a better position to be able to actually see the kinds of things that I'm looking at right now. So these were forwarded to me by Igor, but we'll just open this up and we'll expand it. And I think I can even increase it a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. Yes. Okay. So the first question here, this one's from Aaron, and he says, for the current live Q&A, Mark, my question is, will IRCC be providing COPR extensions to those who have an expiring COPR and are unable to travel? Coming from the US, my state currently has a stay-at-home order preventing travel. Once this order is lifted, would it be a good time to send another web form for the next steps? So that's a great question, Aaron. And you'll remember that there was directions that were posted for anyone who had COPRs that were expiring, that you needed to notify immigration that you are unable to travel. So you do send a web form through the IRCC web form, and you notify immigration that you're unable to travel from your country through no fault of your own, and that your confirmation of permanent residence that is expiring and your visa is expiring to travel. we all know that they will facilitate you. So you do not need to worry that you're going to forever lose your opportunity of landing in Canada. That's not going to be the case, Aaron. You will have an ability to complete that landing, and they will provide instructions on extending those COPRs or reissuing new ones. We're in definitely uncharted territory here, but understand that you will have an opportunity to land regardless of the delays. But you need to take the step and follow their instructions and just raise a web form, send that to IRCC, and let them know that you are one of the many, many people that are stuck without the ability to land and complete your permanent residence landing process. Okay. All right. Next question. This one comes from Instagram. So that one was on Facebook. This one comes from Instagram. And this is from Deep Words by Iffy. In a previous PR application, a friend claimed foreign employment. The PR was rejected because of this. She later found out that she made a mistake as it was network marketing, self-employed. She is in the pool again and is going to submit it in the personal history as self-employed and provide sufficient documents to back that, and also swear an affidavit that it was an honest mistake. What are the chances? This is something that I get more consults with. Well, I seem to say that a lot, don't I? I think I do. I seem to say that all the time, that, oh, this is one that I get a lot of consults about, but it actually is the case. So where there are mistakes on the permanent resident application and then it gets returned or refused, and then you're trying to fix it, correct it. So in every case, guys, every single case, make sure you face that refusal head on. You explain, yes, it was refused in a letter of explanation. You've corrected the mistake, and you've explained the change that you've had to make. Now, in this question here, from Deep Words, the reality is they talk about she's in the pool again and is going to submit it in the personal history. Okay, well, understand, if you are not including that network marketing work experience in the actual work history section, it's not going to ask you to provide any details regarding that work history if it's only listed in the personal history. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you're going to put everything in. If it was in the work history that work history is going to be required, so that network marketing, then absolutely you're going to put affidavits in there. But understand, her swearing an affidavit isn't going to mean anything to immigration. If it's a third party or someone else that's swearing an affidavit, then yes, they'll give that a little bit more weight. But you'll remember, and I will actually flip over and I'll show you. Let me just see if I can find. I've got so many different here. I'll open up this one if I can. Okay, there. Okay, I'll open this up and then I'm just going to go to the EE completeness check. Okay, and this is where I go for information on what the documents need to look like. And then I'm going to type in a proof of work experience right here. And you'll see that there is a section here that talks about self-employed. And specifically, you're going to follow these instructions on what's required, but you'll see here at the end where it says self-declared main duties or affidavits are not acceptable proof of self-employed work experience. So if your friend there is deciding to try to use a sworn affidavit that they're swearing themselves, don't worry to support the work history, don't worry about it. You also don't need a sworn affidavit to say that it was an honest mistake. Just say it, put it in a letter of explanation and explain what happened. And if there is any supporting documents to support it, include those. But a sworn affidavit really isn't needed. Okay, this one comes from Bhumika from Quebec. All right, this is Bhumika. I hope you're doing well. I'm on a work permit, working in a restaurant as a dining room manager. I will complete 1 year in November. Here, my question is that am I able to apply for CEC after completion of 1 year? Please suggest to me how can I apply for CEC if I'm living now in Quebec? Okay, I can tell you, Bhumika, that you have a huge challenge. And the reason you have a challenge is because anyone who's applying for express entry has to show that they have an intention to reside outside of Quebec. And I'm actually doing a review today after this is over, after the live Q&A with a client who had their application refused because they put Montreal as their destination where they intended to immigrate to, and the application got refused. If you are currently living and working in Quebec, and whether you're on a post-grad work permit or not, understand it's going to be extremely difficult for you to be able to show to immigration that you actually have an intention to reside outside of Quebec if all of your experience is in Quebec. especially if you're on a postgrad and maybe you completed your studies in Quebec. So this whole issue, Bhumika, is not an easy one. I recommend that you consider booking a consultation so that we can dive into it a little bit deeper. But be advised, for you, if you're living in Quebec now, it's going to be really tough. Okay? All right. Let's get this one from Mandy. She says, "Hi, Mark. Hope you're doing well. I had a question regarding background checks. Is it a standard practice that the officer checks all the previous temporary residence applications of an applicant to match the info on their current EAPR and previous TRVs?" Mandy, what are you asking here? Are you concerned that maybe you didn't put something properly? Okay, or is it just done if a previous application is refused or if something is suspicious? Also, if an EAPR is withdrawn before processing is started, can it still be used as a reference to make decisions about future EAPRs? Thanks for all the awesome work that you do on Facebook. Mandy, these are all great questions. Officers do not routinely go back and search through a person's immigration history. They don't. They will only do it if, as you've identified here, if something is suspicious. Okay? Oh, actually, I better share my screen here. I'm talking and not sharing. So that's Mandy's question. So the reality is, and maybe we can make it just a little bit bigger here, maybe. Actually, it doesn't look like it's showing up much bigger on your screen. So I'll keep it at that level. So yeah, when it comes to background checks and specifically going through your immigration history, whether it's Canada or even another country, remember, if you're Australia, New Zealand, the UK or the US, Canada has information sharing agreements with all of those countries. So even those immigration histories are potentially something that could catch you. And so if you do withdraw your EAPR, the record is still there of the information that you entered into the system. It doesn't disappear. So you still need to address it head on. But yes, if you withdraw it and then you resubmit and say, hey, I made a mistake, I caught it, I knew I withdrew in order to correct the mistake that I'd made in the application, then that's entirely possible as well. Remember, if you're express entry and you withdraw your EAPR, then you have to go back in and submit your back into the pool. You have to get back into the pool and get another invitation to apply. Okay? All right, and then the last question we'll end with here is Jerry, and then we'll look at some of these other ones maybe another time. We're kind of fighting time a little bit here, and I want to make sure that I give everybody who's watching live an opportunity. Okay, Jerry says, "Hi, Mark. I really appreciate that you spend the time doing the Q&As. Hope you and your family are staying safe and healthy. I have a question about the EE documents, and I hope you can help answer it. Is it common for CEC applicants to be asked for an RCMP criminal check by RRCC later in the process? If so, should I submit the RCMP record as client information along with all the other required documents just in case it's requested?" That's a great question, Jerry. The reality is it's not required for you to submit it, and sometimes they do come back and ask. The times in which they ask for you to obtain an official one are when they maybe have a name match. So your name matches with someone who has a record, and then sometimes they'll go and have you get those fingerprints done and the formal fingerprint search done in order to rule out that you are not the same person that has the record and that you're actually someone different. So it's really up to you, Jerry. If you have the RCMP check, there's no harm in actually including it, but I never advise my clients to go through that step because it's so rare that immigration ever comes back and requests it. But at times they do. All right. Okay, great question. Okay, y'all. Now we're going to shift gears here and we're going to pull in the questions from the live listeners. So this is where it's your turn to post. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. The first question, I want to give a few little ground rules. It's really important that when you post a question that you don't post a big long one, because I'm not going to take the time to read a big long question because I want to get through as many as possible. So keep it to one question. Don't put two or three. I'm just going to pick one, and I may end up picking the one that really isn't the most important for you. So just choose one because we want to give as many people as possible an opportunity to do that. Okay. And when you're asking the questions, keep them general. Don't ask, hey, Mark, if my qualifications are this and this is my NOT code, are there any PNPs available to me? That, my friends, will require a consultation. And in order to do that, if you have a specific question and you do want to reach out to me, the easiest way to do that is to actually go to, I'm just going to open this up here. You're actually going to go to, and I'll share my screen, to my website, which is holthelaw.com. And when you're there, you're going to click on the Start Here button. And that Start Here button will take you to a series of questions, drop downs, where you can choose whether it's individual or business, whether you want to come temporarily or immigrate permanently, whether you want to, if you're currently living outside and you want to go through express entry, or whether you're a foreign national in Canada, and then fill out this form. And as you fill out this form here, it will then go into our automated intake system. And Mauricia, my awesome intake specialist who lives down in St. Kitts, is going to reach out to you, send an email, and get everything onboarded. So that's the process that you follow, okay? So in your situation, make sure you're not asking a question that's only going to benefit you. The more general the question, the more likely I'm going to be able to answer it. Okay, let's start off here. And once again, I love this feature that I have now where I can actually pull up the question. So Mancy says, hi Mark, thank you for coming live. My question today is I've completed 2 years of work experience, received an ITA, but then I realized I had taken 1 month vacation in between, which makes the total 23 months of work, but I got points for 2 years. Is that still considered 2 years or not? So when it comes to vacation, immigration asks, is this a regular vacation where you continue to be paid when you had that time off? So if you took that 1 month off, some people are actually still granted paid vacation. If that's the case, no issues at all. If personally, understand, this is me personally, if an individual has, I wonder if I can, oh, that doesn't work very good. Shoot, I shouldn't have touched that. Oh man. Okay, let's see if I can figure this out. Just a little bit smaller. Smaller there. Okay, we'll push it down to that. This is why you don't play for, this is why you don't mess around with things when you've got a system working. Okay, anyway, so Mancy, if you were not paid and this was time that was actually taken off, I'm always careful in those circumstances, because if that time was literally off and you need that for the purposes of making your 2 years, but immigration has actually given you credit for it, an officer has discretion. So for instance, if you're going through the Canadian Experience class, you've taken that month off and you've gotten the invitation to apply, it is possible to wait to reclaim that month to make sure that you don't submit your EAPR until you've reclaimed that month, and then address it specifically when you file your EAPR, especially if it's your current employer. An officer always has the ability to say, no, I'm not going to accept that, and you really weren't entitled to the ITA. But I'll be honest, that's kind of a cruel position given the fact that it's not your fault. And in the world here that we have of these invitations to apply, if you're someone that's sitting at 455 and you got that magical invitation to apply, well, you never dreamed that it was going to come down to that level again. So you probably do not want to take any chances and declining that invitation. You're going to wait so you've got the full 2 years before you submit your EAPR, and you're going to explain it to the officer. You're going to say, look, I got the ITA, but I actually have the full 2 years now, and I waited to make sure, and now I'm filing my EAPR. And so that's how I deal with it, because at the end of the day, if you have an individual who is not working at that same employment, and now you're trying to go through the EAPR and there's no way of actually reclaiming that 1 month that you don't have anymore, for example, if it's outside of Canada work experience, then that is going to be an issue for you. And an officer could very well say that you don't qualify. Okay, so I always try to rectify it. I always try to figure out if there's a way to reclaim it by continuing to work and not submitting my EAPR until I've reclaimed that 1 month. But if that's not the case, then you just have to make the pitch. But be mindful. If you think you can get the ITA again, if you're sitting at 500 CRS points, then it's highly likely you're going to get another invitation to apply. So in those cases, sometimes I will decline the invitation, go back into the pool, and then wait for another ITA because I know I'm going to get one. But if you're uncertain, then don't wait. Okay, the next question. Okay, Ankshwad says, 461 is achievable. Well, if you're a Canadian Experience class, it is. Okay, let's see what GS says here. Okay, my AOR is 2018. That's a long time ago. Married, added my wife in March 2019. No update. Did medicals in 2020, which got updated in April. How can I ask for an update? No luck with the web form yet. Understand, guys, that the actual anything that's happening now is going to result in significant delays. So anyone who has any applications pending at the beginning of February, even through that period, understand that everything is being slowed, it's being delayed, and you can just expect that it's going to take longer. So in all honesty, I wouldn't raise any web form. The reality is at this stage, you can look and see if they've requested anything, you respond. If they haven't, it's because they're backlogged, they're overloaded. And this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, telling you guys not to go to all of the hassle of requesting a web form because they just don't have capacity to answer. It's going to be really, really difficult. And in fact, only recently did we hear that the call center is now going to be reopened because the call center are now able to work remotely out of their homes, which was something that they weren't really equipped very well to do before. All right, so I advise people not to do it. Okay, and interestingly enough, we got a report back for those of you who are interested in doing access to information requests, ATIP requests. Well, people are getting notifications that they're not going to respond for 365 days. So we're not going to get back to you for a year. So don't call us, we'll call you. So even that process really isn't terribly beneficial. All right, just trying to get this here. Okay, next question here. Amir says, what about people who are about to request for ECA? Well, Amir, you're just stuck in limbo. There's nothing you can do. You're not going to get any points for your education until the ECAs continue to be issued. And right now we're kind of at a little bit of a standstill. Okay. Divya says, hey, my AOR is March 18th, but I haven't received the bill. Should I raise a web form? Same story, Divya. You're not going to get a response. Be patient. If you have something that you're updating, where you're saying, hey, I can't travel, I've got my COPR, then yes, web form, notify them. But understand, it is really one directional. It's unlikely they're going to be able to get back to you anytime soon. So understand, raising those when you haven't heard, like we're in the midst of this pandemic and there's reduced officers and you're just not going to get responses in the way that you'd hoped. So I recommend don't waste your time right now. Let's wait a little bit to see how the dust settles. Okay. Okay, so Ankush says, is it possible to get an arranged job offer from Canada in the present times? In case yes, then can an LMI process be initiated in the current scenario? I'm based in India in the pool. Thanks. Okay, so I can't answer whether or not you can get a job, which is really what you're asking here. And yes, LMIAs are still being issued, but the issue right now is biometrics overseas. When people are applying for new work permits and they have not yet completed biometrics, that is what's causing the problem, in addition to Canada's travel restrictions for people applying for new work permits. So understand everything is kind of being held in abeyance, and especially in your situation, Ankush, I can't tell you whether or not you can get a work permit from India. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so Abhishek says, NOC 4167 has a different main duties for different job titles, one per title. So technically, if you fall under one of them, that one main duty should be good enough, right? Yeah, you're right, Abhishek. If you're in some occupations, and this probably warrants shifting over and sharing my screen. So I'll share my screen and then we'll go to the NOC and we'll just take a quick look at this and I'll show you guys this because sometimes this is an issue that people run into. So if we flip back here, we know that, let's just see. So I'm going to actually close that and we're going to go here. There, I think you guys can see it okay. And then we're going to pull up. I'm just going to make, so here we are here. So what we're in the wrong one, sorry. I've got so many things going on. I'm actually Abhishek, it's 4167 is what we're looking at. So let's punch in 4167 and look exactly at what he's referring to. So when you go through this process, you will see that some NOC descriptions like this one have different, you can see here, have different actual occupations. So program consultant, policy analyst, recreation program consultant, recreation sport fitness supervisors. So you can see each of these are separate. So yes, the answer is what you're looking at is performing the duties that are associated with this and not proving that you have a substantial number of the main duties that list all of the, that are included with all of the other positions. So yes, in this you are correct. So just to jump back here again, the question from Abhishek was just one main duty. Should that be enough? Yes, it is. But when there's only one, you got to hit it straight on. You have to hit it straight on. Okay, next question. Let's see here. Okay, we'll hit for Kabir. It's a little bit bigger, but that's okay. Okay, yeah, keeping well. what is the login on the initial landing for the federal skilled worker candidates? Why are they generally not PR when they receive PPR from their home country? Also, why is Quebec not considered the federal? Thank you very much. Okay, you got a lot of questions. I'm going to choose the one that I want to answer. So you got to pick the one. So why is Quebec not considered? Because the regulations stipulate it. Quebec has its own immigration programs. It has its own pathways to immigration. And because of that, you are in a situation where the regulations stipulate you must demonstrate an ability and to settle outside of Canada. So establish yourself. An ability to establish yourself outside of Quebec. That's what you're focusing on because Quebec has its own program. All right. So, all right. Next question here. We'll try to find one that has not yet been answered. Okay, if it's any question, I can see Rajput here is asking questions about working in a job and those kinds of things. This is very specific, Rajput. And the reality is, without IELTS, you're not getting in. No experience, not getting in. And I can't answer the monthly salary because that applies to differently for every occupation. Okay, so here's one. Why are EAPI processing times the same for PNP candidates? Well, I'm trying to understand that since provinces have already checked the documents, determined eligibility, blah, 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 blah. Why are they the same? It's the background. Because when it comes to the actual processing of applications, immigration has to, they have to do the background checks and the security, like you've indicated here. But they will also look at your reference letters. They also, even though you have the nomination, you're still going through one of the programs, and they will still refuse if they don't feel that your reference letters are sufficiently matching your knock. So they will still go through and review some of those things. So it's not just a simple, we're going to accept the nomination and that's it. If that was the case, they wouldn't actually ask you to provide reference letters or education. So even though you have a nomination, that nomination is still going through express entry and one of those streams. And that's why with the express entry streams, you're still being drawn under the Canadian Experience class or the Federal Skilled Worker Program or the Federal Skilled Trade Program. And so you still have to meet those requirements. It's not just a matter of them accepting that nomination, and then just, only doing the security and background checks. So good question. Okay. And then Vib says, what's the scope of a foreign lawyer in Canada before the NCA? I'll have to bring Igor in to talk about that because he's going through that process right now. He has his master's in law and he's working towards getting it. Everything is kind of shut down and ground to a halt right now with the NCAs. And so when it comes to being a lawyer in Canada, I'll have Igor do a little special broadcast on that. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Trying to find one that has not already been posted. So let's see. People are duplicating it over and over, which is not helpful, you guys. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here. I think this is Diamond. You should just have your friend come on because I think you had some questions from last time. So this is your magical friend that has her study permit to start in school in September. She's already in Canada. Since she can't work till she starts school, can she do Forex trading? Is that considered illegal in her circumstances? Oh my goodness, Diamond, that is so hilarious. I'm pretty sure an officer isn't going to, if she's trading her own stuff, or she's working virtually for a business outside of Canada, you can do that. There's no restrictions whatsoever on that. It's just if you're working for a company in Canada, then that's an issue. And ultimately, if you are doing your own trading on the stock market, I'm pretty sure no officer is going to consider that to be illegal work. Okay. Okay, let's see. We're working through here. You guys posting multiple times, not helpful. Looks like we've got a bunch of YouTubers here that are posting the same types of questions over. Let's see. Okay, let's try this one from Nuri Forik. Nuri Forik. Okay, hi Mark. If I worked in a paid internship until October and then continued at the same company as a full-timer under the same knock, should I separate them in work history? Okay, this is one of the biggest misconceptions. If you are actually in Canada, then any work experience gained while on a study permit can't count. If you're outside of Canada, any work experience gained on an internship or other training kind of programs, if you are actually paid and you're performing the same duties under that same NOC, and you can show that you've done a substantial number of them, then you can count that internship every bit as much as the actual full-time experience once you're brought on that way. So the key is, are you being paid and are you performing those duties? That's really, that's really what it comes down to. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go on here. Okay, so here we go. Hi, Mark. Can one update information through the web form, which is received through GCMS notes? Okay, Sahar, I know what you're asking. So Sahar's got an EAPR application in the queue. It's kind of delayed. He got an access to information request, or GCMS notes, before all of this happened, that indicates they've got some questions, or it's been referred for further review. Maybe it's work history. Maybe it's something else. Well, absolutely, yes. There's nothing stopping you from updating that information. And I strongly encourage, Sahar, that you do that. If you want to book a consult, we can go through it in detail, and I can kind of help you to understand how an officer, how they're looking at your documents. I do that all the time for my clients. But in your situation, absolutely, that is 100% what I would have you do. All right, we've got just a few more minutes here, guys, of questions. And then I have to jump to an actual real consult that's going to start at 2. So this one's a little bit shorter than normal, so I apologize for that. Okay, let's see if we can get through this really quick here. Okay, so this one here, this is an unknown. Application is pending since 7 months, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's going to take longer. Understand, we're in a world where it's going to take much longer than 7 months, probably. So understand, that's what you have to manage your expectations. Okay, next one, job bank registration. Is it mandatory or can it be ignored? It can be ignored, Himanshu. You don't need to do job bank registration anymore. Jane says, can you update whether it's possible to apply for a study permit when you have IRCC application in progress? Of course you can apply for a study permit. There's nothing stopping you when you have an IRCC application in progress. If it's an express entry, understand though, that if you're outside of Canada and you're applying for a study permit, one of the main things that you have to show, Jane, is that you have temporary intent, that you'll go home after your study permit, after your study is completed. And when you have an express entry application in the queue, that isn't a factor an officer can look at to say, you don't really intend to go home. You intend to become a permanent resident, and you're showing permanent intent. And therefore, I'm going to refuse your study permit. So now, not only on that ground can they refuse it, but they'll look at everything with a painted kind of brush that you are actually looking to immigrate because you've got an express entry application in the pool. Okay. All right. Let's see here. We're keeping going down here. Wow. We've got a ton of YouTube, and I think I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. They say, when do you think the next federal skilled worker draw is going to be? That I don't have any predictions. I'm going to say once this isolation and the travel bans are lifted, then I think that's probably a good chance that they're going to start doing it at that stage. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. We'll try to find one more here. Let's see here. Okay, Sahar just says, how does one update information received through GCMS? Through the web form. So IRCC web form, that's where you update it. Let's see, I'm just trying to find one here. Okay, I'll end with Karthik. So Karthik says, do candidates within 440 to 450 have any chance of getting an ITA in the next few draws? Okay, if you're in Canada, Canadian Experience class, it is entirely possible that it could drop if they do another round, just CEC only. It's possible that it definitely could drop below 450 if you're in Canada. For the simple matter that people are not able to write new language tests. So there is no new candidates going into the pool if you don't already have a language test. And same thing for ECAs. So they are continuing to scoop down and down and down. And my person is looking to contact me already. Okay, so when you've got a client calling in for their consult, you do not want to keep them waiting. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. One last little thing that I'm going to give a shout out to is our phenomenal Canadian settlement course that we are creating. And we want you to be part of it. So all you have to do to be a part of it is to go to the Canadian Immigration Institute website, go to join our Canadian settlement webinar, and you can see it's going to happen in 9 days. register for the webinar, and then we'll invite you in to attend that live webinar on settling in Canada. Remember, this is restricted, folks, to people that already have their confirmations of permanent residence or have a passport request or are already in Canada looking for instructions on making that whole process easier. Remember, guys, remember at this stage that this really is, what is it getting at? Here's the question that it's getting at. What is the one thing, if you're already in Canada, which is the one thing that you absolutely must need to know before you ever step on that plane to fly to Canada? That's what we're getting at here. All right. Okay, guys, I guess I better shut down here. And I want to thank you for tuning in. Another live Q&A. Join me on Thursday because we're going to do it all over again. Mark Holthe here, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, able to help you with any of your Canadian immigration needs. Just reach out to us. Take care.